You're listening to the Monocle Daily, first broadcast on the 26th of June 2025 on Monocle Radio. Iran's supreme leader declares victory over Israel. The US brightest brains move to France and don't seem to like it. And what does France do in a deluge? I'm Emma Nelson and the Monocle Daily starts now. Hello and a very warm welcome to the Monocle Daily, coming to you from Studio 5 here at 16 Rue Bachaumont, Monocle's headquarters in Paris. I'm Emma Nelson and I'll be joined around the table by Michele Berbero, Florence Martin-Kessler and Thierry Coville. They'll all be here to talk about the day's big stories, including the burning issue of the week: why are so many Australians crashing their caravans? So stay tuned, all that coming up right here from Paris on the Monocle Daily. Welcome to some new faces to Studio 5. I'm delighted to say Michele Berbero, AFPT Live Editor-in-Chief. You've been in before, but we go back a long way. We looked at each other and realised that we worked together a decade ago and had completely forgotten. Florence Martin-Kessler, welcome back to the studio. Lovely to see you. And a very, very warm welcome to Thierry Coville, who's researcher at the Institute of International Strategic Relations. Thank you for coming and welcome to Studio 5. It's lovely to have you with us. How is everybody this evening? Some of us are dressed up. There's a Monocle party going on in a minute. So it's not often that you get to present radio in your party frock and your and pretty uncomfortable shoes. But, you know, let's dress up for the occasion. But other than that, how has everybody's week been? How about you, Florence?
Well, I just was about to say style over comfort.
Absolutely.
In Paris. So we are happy to be in our fancy shoes.
Is that a thing? Is that really a thing?
Absolutely.
You have to suffer to be beautiful?
Ouais.
Excellent. We're suffering. No, we're not. Fine. How about you? How's your week been?
Not too bad. Busy. A bit too many summits this week with NATO and Brussels EU summit today.
Do you get a sort of summit blizzard occasionally that you're not entirely sure where that picture has been taken and who's en route to where and what?
Yeah, you described it pretty fairly. Yeah. Okay. It does happen.
Lovely. Thank you for you. And how about your week? How's it been, Thierry? What have you been doing?
A bit tiring because since the start of the war, I was too much in the media. I'm not criticizing, but that took a lot of my time.
Okay, fine. Well, we won't keep you long then. If you don't.
No, I'm not. I didn't want to criticize you. No.
Because actually, we're going to talk about the subject which you are the expert on straight away, which is Iran's supreme leader. He's on the screen behind me, actually, in Studio 5, declaring victory over Israel following the ceasefire between the two countries. Donald Trump, for his part, and there is always a part to be played by him, has said that Tehran had been unable to move its highly enriched uranium. So who knows what was happening during those attacks on Saturday night. Let's begin with you, Thierry. This latest statement by the supreme leader, this declaration of victory over Israel. Is it a declaration of victory over Israel, or is it a very strong message to his people that he is still very much in charge?
Both. I think, when you know Iran, he was nearly obliged to say that. The thing with Islamic Republic of Iran, they will never say that we have been defeated. So they said we have not been defeated, so we have won. So, and I'm not here to defend Iran or to criticize Iran, but it's not completely far from reality in the sense that, yes, Iran has been defeated because they don't have fighter jet. Not at all. So they couldn't fight against Israel. On the other hand, except for the, let's say, first 2 days where they were nearly disorganized because they were very surprised, they were able to, organize themselves. The Iranian state kept together. There were a lot of solidarity, what I heard among the people, some kind of nationalistic, impulse, and they were able with their ballistic missiles to answer Israel. So in their sense, they have been able to resist. You can say after, yes, the sky was in the hands of the Israeli fighter jets, that they have a lot of destructions. But on one hand, I see two aims of Netanyahu were to destroy the nuclear Iran program. we see that it's not nearly, we don't know, but yes, it doesn't seem to be the case. Second point, to have a regime change. And obviously, he addressed the Iranian people, asking them to rebel against the regime. It did not happen. So you have all the hyperbolic of the supreme leader saying, no, we made... I think you have to distinguish between the US and Israel. I think the US, it's completely logic that he says. He knows, he doesn't believe in it himself. He doesn't want to have a war with the US. On the other hand, Israel is another thing. And I think he wants to say to Israel, okay, you attacked us, but don't consider we have been defeated and we are ready to resist.
Florence, you nodded there, and there is that sense, when you put it in that context, that to be attacked by both Israel and the United States and to make it to the end of the week and declare victory and to have not lost your country is a sign of just how resilient Iran is.
Absolutely, and I think I was talking to one of my Iranian friend who was a New York Times correspondent for a while, now is in exile in the US, and she was saying, you will, and that was at the very beginning, you will see as much as people like us, educated, hate the Islamic Republic, everybody is going to be uniting in front of the enemies, and I think it did happen. Absolutely.
And following the narratives as we've gone along, Michele, I know you've been following the summits, but at the same time, just following the way that it seemed like a completely cut and dried deal on Saturday night when the B-2 bombers went in and did what they promised to do. And yet it was from CNN itself last night that the leak came through saying they're actually not quite sure what has happened and casting doubt from inside the United States. I mean, that came as a surprise to me.
Yeah. I mean, I think in a way it was to be expected in the sense that it's crazy, this assumption that 1 second after an airstrike like that, you're supposed to know exactly the kind of damage you caused. One of the most ludicrous statements came from Hegseth. At some point he said, like, I know those plants have been destroyed because the pilots know that those facilities were destroyed. Where, I was reading some stuff about World War II and bombing raids in World War II. Obviously, technology has changed completely and so on. But there's one thing that was obvious and crystal clear back then: you cannot trust the pilots. The pilots, by definition, are led to believe and convince themselves that they've risked their lives, so they've hit the target as far as they're concerned. And obviously, again, it's a bit of a provocation, different story here, different context. But the fact that in a press conference Hegseth said something like that, it shows the level of lack of real evidence.
But that's a good narrative. That's a good tale to tell, as is declaring victory over Israel. This suddenly becomes this really simplified narrative, which is what always happens in conflict, isn't it? And now we have Emmanuel Macron and indeed the German Chancellor Friedrich Merz pleading, asking for Iran to resume cooperation with the International Atomic Agency. I mean, do you think that's going to happen?
I think what I heard, the Parliament and then another, which is National Security Council, have exactly decided otherwise, that they want to stop cooperation with the International Atomic Agency.
And that suggests that any further development of anything nuclear will be done without the eyes of the outside world.
I think everyone is expecting what is going to happen. I mean, Donald Trump has said, if we believe him, that he's going to discuss with the Iranians next week. So I think that's the key. And it obviously doesn't need the International Atomic Agency for these discussions. After, maybe they will have a role, but what I think I have heard that the Iranian authorities are very, very, very angry with Mr. Grossi. They consider he was not fair. They consider his latest report gave arguments for attacking Iran. They accused him of other things which are even more important, but there are a lot of tensions presently with Mr. Grossi, so I'm not surprised by this reaction. But I repeat, I think the important issue is what is going to happen in these talks between the US and Iran.
And what do we think might happen, given the fact that we are now dealing with an Iranian regime which is very, very good at being patient? It can sit things out for years upon years upon years, whereas Donald Trump arguably is not quite the same.
But that's the thing, like we've been talking about narratives of victory and so on. Like clearly this is a tactical victory in the sense that they did cause damage to the Iranian nuclear program, but you end up with a country, Iran, that's now incredibly angered, which trusts the West even less than it did before, which is certainly going to try to resume its nuclear program where it left it off, but in a sneakier, more secretive way, North Korean style. I don't see how, by any parameter, this is a long-term strategic victory for anyone really in the West.
You're listening to The Monocle Daily with me, Emma Nelson, coming to you from Studio 5 here in Paris. I'm joined around the table by Michele Berbero, Florence Martin-Kessler and Thierry Coville. Now, let's talk a little bit about US-French relations, but in a different context, because the scything of major scientific projects and the culling of government departments in the aftermath of Donald Trump's election left lots of very, very clever people in the United States out of a job. And it was at that point that France stepped in and stepped up. It launched a program of seduction to woo scientists to France, promising a refuge from Trumpism, a promise of freedom and the ambition of a country wanting to punch higher. Some came, and while several have settled, other scientists are now questioning their move. Florence, it's an astonishing story, isn't it? That the idea that leave America, you have no job, there is a change in Washington, and here is France with all the wonderful things that it has to offer. People aren't happy. Do we know why not?
Well, from my perspective, France wants to exist more in the international education and research stage. It has been left behind, but I'm sure Thierry has many things to say about it. The salaries we offer here in France, so some private grandes écoles can, and have really expanded their international recruitment for academics, but basically the salaries are really, much, much smaller. And so I think it's very ambitious and interesting. Also, and in the universities, the postdoc have been mostly leaving for the US because they have a terrible time after writing their PhDs and theses in hard science and also other science to find jobs really within the public sector. So it's been very tense and difficult. So now to say that it's going to be the paradox, we wish. And I think for also the academic community here, it's a bit ironical maybe that Macron will suddenly put money on the table when they have been lacking so much funding. And there is also the BPI, Banque Publique d'Investissement, who is trying to inject a lot of money into research projects, maybe through but it's a bit ironical and a bit of bluff, maybe.
Let's ask the academic in the room. Thierry, what's your view on this? There were quite a few sort of eyebrows being raised when Florence was...
I am no more an academic, so I'm research fellow associated with IRIS, but I was. I try to be, so I just confirmed. I think I can understand the move from Macron as a, let's say, communication issue. That, let's say, you have problem with Donald Trump is making you a terrible time, and we are accepting you. So it's a way to exist exactly on the world stage. I can understand that, but just to say, considering the catastrophic situation of the public universities in France, it's. I don't say if ironic is exactly the word, because I try to get a job as a professor for years, and there are very few positions, for example, in my field in economics. So. Yes, it's very ironic, let's say. Yeah.
Cruel. Yeah, it is arguably a situation that we see borne out in lots and lots and lots of other places. But Michele, I'm just looking at from your point of view, from the European perspective, the idea that France could actually position itself as a scientific powerhouse. Would it actually be dependent on all the really good brains coming over from America first?
Well, it's hard to say, but in a way, yes, in the sense that France, but not just France, like Europe, like these schemes we're talking about to draw US scientists and researchers, they're not in any field, right? They're in very specific fields that that France desperately needs, and not just France, the whole of Europe. AI to just to mention an example. So it is in a way a response to the fact that Europe as a whole is extremely far behind on certain crucial research fields compared to the US or China. But I agree with all of you. Like, I think it's mainly a cosmetic kind of policy when you look at the actual funding that's being put and the actual cuts in public spending that are coming up in all domains, but including research and universities.
So there has been criticism. It's been right across the board of exactly what you've said, that France and Europe as a whole has the opportunity to attract top talent, but there needs to be a serious increase in the level of investment in research here in France, and indeed across Europe. Where does France look for that money, though? Can it look to the government? Because I don't know of any governments who are wandering around saying that they have an awful lot of money to spend. Or can it look to Europe? I don't know. Does anyone have an idea of how France could actually meet its billing? Would you know where to go?
To attract...
yes, to be actually enough to get the Americans to come and to stay and to like it.
I agree with you, but maybe in some specific field. But I think there is a big issue with, let's say, as you say, public spending in France. So, and I think we can do things at the European level. Let's say what we did for fighting against economic consequences of COVID, and it worked. I mean, it was not completely controlled, measured, but it worked in a sense that. I would expect France and Germany, no more UK, but let's say okay.
Okay,
but
thanks for that.
No, but no, just to put their strength together, to have programs on education, spending on research, spending on fighting climate change, and so on. And there are so many things to do. So that's why this kind of communication, where I may say. I don't want to be too political, but we are used to it in France. But I don't think it's getting to the real issues.
And there's another issue that's now catching everybody's attention in Europe, which is defense. Suddenly it looks like Russia is going to be marching in the streets of Paris tomorrow. It's a narrative that I personally find quite strange and quite absurd. But if ever Europe managed to pull together and find the resources, COVID style, for something, I'm afraid that AI and universities and research would not be at the top of the...
Well, I wonder whether actually there is a point when you talk about AI and the likes of the fact that governments, and indeed it's not so long ago since Emmanuel Macron again did a big come to Europe thing when it came to artificial intelligence, and that is something which has an awful lot of money in the private sector. And it is that jump. Does France have to make a big jump towards embracing the private sector? And perhaps quite a few areas of politics would say no. Florence?
In the cultural sector that I know more, they have been trying. Frankly, there is like a giant push towards a philanthropy US style. I mean, they're trying to get individual and corporate money in places that were really traditionally the domaine réservé of the state. I think, but I think a little bit of the mindset is changing a bit. This État-providence that has been so strong and is still so strong, there are a little bit of shifting in attitude, I guess.
Okay. You're listening to the Monocle Daily with me, Emma Nelson, coming to you from Studio 5. Now, where was everybody last night when Paris became the scene of an unimaginable tempest? Where was everybody? I was in it. That's all I'm going to say. Where were you, Michele?
I was at home and no, but I did see. I've got some construction work, like massive construction work, not too far away, and there's a gigantic crane, like say 100 meters away, and I saw it spin like around its axe, which is one of the scariest things I've ever seen.
So the whole thing, the right angle, the top part of the crane, the arm.
Essentially the arm was
around.
was spinning around. Luckily, I'm guessing it's designed to do that, as in case of very strong winds. I hope it's.
If you're the owner of a crane, Nita, where do you live, Michele?
I live in the far south.
Okay,
of Paris.
if you're in the far south of Paris, go and check your bolts and your nuts this morning. Right, so you watched that, and that must have been not much fun to watch.
That wasn't much fun. It was quite impressive, I have to say, but with a fair dose of fear.
How about you, Florence?
I was having a drink in a terrace in the 11th, and it was like a spectacle in front of us to look at the storm, the yellow sky, and the wind.
It was incredible.
And then, it was pretty incredible. When I went home, I had I left all my windows open because it was so hot, and so there was the curtains, the outside curtains were in the street, and I had to pick them up. So I was happy nobody was killed by
your curtains.
By my curtains.
Okay, that would have been a really unfortunate thing. And
absolutely.
Slightly funnier than being killed by a crane. Neither's a funny way to end. How about you? Were you subject to any mortal danger from furniture?
I think it's interesting what you said. I think I was so tired that I missed the old things. I think
too many appearances on the media.
Yes,
that's the trouble.
But yes, I was very so.
You missed the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think you might have been
I have
the
nothing
only.
to say about that. Nothing interesting.
You might have been the only person in France who
maybe.
missed it. Does someone want to tell? Would someone like to tell Jerry what happened last night? I mean, it's been on the news quite a bit because from our point of view, from where we were, the temperatures were 30 degrees at 9:30 p.m., which is remarkable by any stretch. Then the heavens opened and the winds came. 30 minutes later, the temperature had dropped to 20 degrees. And the capital and for the rest of the country were asking themselves what had just happened. I mean, seriously, 2 people had died. There was a debate going on at the Assemblée Nationale, and rain leaked through the roof, causing the suspension of the debate. And there are still severe weather warnings today, with the temperatures expected to go back up again. I mean, do we feel as if France coped well with what happened last night? Because there was a sense actually that, well, we knew it was coming, but the surprise wasn't there, but the shock was. Does that make sense? What do you think?
I think when it comes to the emergency itself, perhaps I'm not in a position to judge. What is interesting to note is that this is happening 10 years after the Paris climate agreement, and when it comes to those issues, globally speaking, France is rolling back, or at the very least, it's fair to say that the green push has been losing some steam, not just in France, in all of Europe. I mean, we all know that. And it's in both France and Brussels, it's kind of the same dynamic. But in France, it's because, as in my opinion, Macron and his project is becoming less revolutionary in a way, and shifting right on a variety of issues. On top of that, he needs in quotations the real rights and its votes to pass bills. And so quite often what the dynamic you see is that even Macron's people in parliament vote against measures that are supposed to, for example, roll back the Green Deal and so on. But then his own allies in government on the right and the far right join forces and vote for those bills. And so that's a clear dynamic. And then the other thing is, as we were saying, lack of state funding, of state resources. Like when you need to save 40 billion euros in 1 year, it's hard to find the means to finance the green revolution, right?
It's a very special moment for France presently, because as you know, we have little troubles with our parliament. I think we cannot really pass any law because they are too divided. And on top of that, we have, let's say, the public deficit has, I don't know, reached more than 5% of GDP. So we have to exactly the opposite of what you say. I mean, we would need more money to spend on fighting climate change, on education, research, other issues. And the government is telling us every day that, I have to decrease spending. And so yes, I mean, and our president is trying to communicate, on different issues. But I mean, that's a tragedy. And on the top of that, as you said, you have for example, some laws that were fighting climate change and, for example, have been pushed back due to the farmers' lobby in the parliament. And in my view, it's a catastrophic. So and even accepting what you call fertilizer, which are giving cancer and so and they tell us that no, don't worry. We need to produce foods. It's important for France. Yes, but our health is also very important. So, yes, exactly what you said. I mean, there is a sense that it's no more important. It was very important 2-3 years ago. Now we have to accept it. So in this sense, the atmosphere. I don't think we are going in the right direction.
Thank God, and we discussed that with Emma quickly the other day, is that the cities and the mayors of the big cities are kind of keeping up with this agenda. At least it's something, and I think in Paris it's been relatively, at least it's on the agenda and it's not totally on the back burner, which gives me a bit of satisfaction.
It's 1926 here in Paris. We have a few minutes left of the Monocle Daily before the doors will burst open and the waiters will arrive. So let's talk a little bit more about leisure and how not to do it. A message: if you are an Australian caravan driver and you like Monocle Radio, well, we are incredibly grateful. But the authorities want you to do your level best not to crash your vehicle. There's been an increase in the number of accidents in Australia involving camper vans and the like, and there are calls for better training. Anyone here driven a camper van or spent holidays in caravans?
No.
Absolute no? Good. Anyone here?
Strongly against it.
And we're a moment of unity in France of opinion. It is absolutely wonderful. There's an absolute refusal there. Okay, anyone here? Why has no one ever been in a caravan and a camper van?
This is in the context of my couple with my partner. This is a crusade of mine. Like I'm pushing back against any ideas being floated to ever get a caravan or stuff like that.
Is this being mentioned?
It's really not. Oh yeah, totally. It's really not my thing. I find them as we learn very hard to drive and very big, not particularly comfortable.
What is your sparring partner in the Barbero household using as an argument to persuade you to buy a caravan or a camper? We're really interested here.
More flexibility. You can go wherever you want, but you know what? You can also rent a car and book a hotel and go wherever you want. Okay. And I'd rather go on holiday a little less.
So your partner comes home and says, "It's me or the caravan." What do you go for?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm not going to answer that.
Okay, yeah, they may be listening. How about you, Florence? The reason, and Thierry, the reason why you've never been in a caravan or a camper van?
I was lucky enough because my family is from Brittany in France, and we have a family house. So let's say I'm used to go there nearly every summer, so I didn't have to think about going somewhere else. That's wrong, but I'm so used to go there that. Maybe.
And your house doesn't have wheels. Maybe you should try it. I'm not quite sure. How about you, Florence?
I come from a very snobbish family, and there is a big element of class, at least maybe in the 70s and 80s when I grew up, I guess, also. And I think my mother would have preferred to die than to go into a cafe. And I don't know, maybe I've taken some of our snobbish habits. Though, there is a big... France, a lot of people... Not everybody goes into vacation in France. There's a big part of the French who don't. And a huge part actually goes into camping grounds, and it's something that is very... everybody in France... a lot of people can still go in vacation, and that's the way to go. And there is a new generation of people who love it as well. So I don't know what to say more. And I do also have a house in Brittany, Thierry, where I'd love to go.
Well, there we go. We just introduced two neighbours. Thank you so much. Maybe you want to share a camper van. I'm not quite sure. The warmest of thanks to Michele Berbero, Florence Martin Kessler and Thierry Coville. Thank you so much for joining us on Monocle Radio. You're listening to The Daily with me, Emma Nelson, coming to you from Studio 5 here in Paris. And we need to get our next guests in because they are standing by. I think they're waiting to refill their guests. We're going to have a bit of a change around now because at top speed but safely and elegantly, Michele, Florence and Thierry leave the room, replaced by Simon Bouvier, our design editor Nick Moniz, and I think our editorial director Tyler Brûlé will be joining us in a little moment. But
maybe, possibly.
He's got a party to host.
Yeah, there's cocktails in hand as I walk past,
seriously,
so we'll see.
Well, look, Simon, you have an empty glass. Oh, that's someone else's. Indeed. Okay, why?
Well, that's a great question. I don't think we've brought the bars to inside the radio studio yet, but maybe we should upgrade to that logistical element.
No, see, this is the thing. I knew that I needed to have a moist palate. Is that the right word?
Yes.
Yeah, I needed a moist palate for radio. So I made it. Simon, I don't mean to throw you under the bus here, but I made a beeline for the bar, picked up my white wine, and now I'm here with, hopefully a moist palate. Speaking of moist palates,
I was never going to say that, Nick. Good evening, our editorial director, Tyler Brûlé. How are you?
Editorial director is very good, thanks. Editorial director is going to find some headphones.
Okay, fine.
Anyway, but all good.
All good. How's it going out there?
It's busy and it's toasty because we thought yesterday was hot, but unlike sort of the downpour we had yesterday, it's sunny and it's fresh.
Good. And it's good to have everybody today. And it's a busy week for Paris this week anyway. But the holding a party tonight, what was the reason that you set the date for the 26th of June?
Because it worked with my diary.
Okay, fine.
In part, not entirely. We wanted to set a date, so there's a number of things happening this evening. This is the official launch of our new fragrance, Ciros, which is our 5th fragrance we've done with Comme des Garçons. So I was just talking to our nose outside right now about that. So that was part of it, is to sort of hit a hard date to say, let's focus on this to get this fragrance launched. And of course, it's Menswear Week as well, and it's. Yeah, and you sort of already, I don't know, Simon, what you feel, but it's like Paris is already in demobilization mode. People say, oh, there's no time. It's like, people, you still have another month, right? But it's already, I'm not sure if I can squeeze it in. Everything gets pushed to like October already. I'm like, stop it.
There is room to have meetings. There's also a lot of complaining at the moment as well, because people are just sort of waiting for the moment when they can hit the exit door and get out. So actually, whether you will actually get anything done in that month before the holidays, I'm not sure. How are we feeling about that?
No, we're feeling good because I put my foot down yesterday with a major client and I said, this interview has to happen. They said, oh, no way, we're not going to get through the PAs and it's not going to happen. It happened.
Good.
But I had to remind them. I said, there's plenty of time. Like there's a month. Really, like you don't need a month to pack to head to Toulon or wherever you're going.
Maybe after this session, you can give me some tips. I'll take notes because that's definitely a thing, especially when reaching out to major companies. People saying, oh, well, the summer is upon us and maybe at the rentrée when the school starts again and so on and so forth, which is in September. But yeah, they do still have a month to go.
But this was the thing I found so bizarre, when I was, green behind the ears moving here 7 years ago. In Australia, you only take holidays at Christmas. So coming over here and the very concept of taking a month off was absolutely bizarre to me.
Well, this is of course a broader topic for a whole series of programs that we can talk about. The need to work.
Yeah.
In Europe, at least, because I think it's amazing. I think watching everything, of course, from The Hague this week, thinking about, of course, everyone moving to 5% spending, etc. This is going to actually, if you're going to actually arm up in this way, and you're going to buy European, this is going to mean a mobilization of factories that are going to have to work round the clock. We're going to have to get back to 3 shifts, not 1.5 shifts. We're going to have to get back to 7 days a week. And I think this is all fine because some people might want to work overnights. Hey, look at the world of broadcasting, right? There was something called the overnight shift I would not say it was invented by broadcasting, but it's something that happens. And somehow we've sort of moved away from that a little bit in many corners.
And it's an interesting point that you raise, that actually the money is not going to have to just come from the manufacturing of armaments to ensure that countries can actually meet that 5% spending. Everybody else is going to have to pay for it. Otherwise, the money's got to come from somewhere, and you don't want to take it from the public coffers, do you? You want to make sure that business is moving and business is working. I'm actually going to look at you, Simon. As the Frenchman in the room, you actually have to represent the whole of the unionization of your country at this point.
No pressure.
Defend your behavior.
So, yeah, but why are you doing this, Simon? Because everyone else is getting on with it.
Well, I think that people who are proud of the system that we have here would say we've done pretty well for a country who's working 660 hours on average instead of, I think it's 110 hours less than the rest of the EU. There was an article in Les Echos about it today making this exact point about this money is going to have to come from somewhere, and that's going to have to mean for France specifically to step up the duration of the work week. Not speaking for the Monocle Paris team, of course, because averages do not apply to us.
We're open for business tonight, aren't we?
We absolutely are open for business. I think well beyond 10 o'clock. That's what it says on the door. But this is, of course...
Oh, I'll be here well beyond 10 o'clock.
Absolutely.
Difficult language to speak is French. I'm not quite sure what 10 o'clock is in French, but I don't know.
Oh, French after 8 glasses of wine, I've got no chance.
That's a glass of translator you have in your hand.
Yeah, you're right. And
you need 3, and you can speak any language with confidence and panache.
That and a good soundtrack is all I need to sort of be able to communicate.
And it's the penultimate evening of these broadcasts from here, at least for now. Are you going to miss it?
Yes, we've sort of bedded in here at the back of Rubachemont. We've really sort of got under the skin of the place. We've had lovely people. We've got to know the community. We've got to know how Paris rolls. Not bad.
See Paris rolling. We're hearing the number 3 going out from underneath us because we have the metro running. But I
love the number 3.
I know, but actually, and you don't. As I said, I don't think our listeners hear it unless you sort of draw their attention to it.
We don't have a phone in, so we'll never know.
But this is the beauty of being in the room and just that gentle vibration running through my seat. Is it? Maybe I've had too many glasses of wine before.
I don't think that's the number 3, Nick Minis. It's party time, everybody, so we will have to leave you from here in Studio 5 at Rubachemont. I'll be back tomorrow with the briefing, but for now, that's all the time we have for today's edition of the Monocle Daily. The warmest of thanks to my panellists, Michele Barbero, Florence Martin-Kessler and Thierry Coville, and to our guests Simon Bouvier, Tyler Brûlé and Nick Manise. Today's producer was Tom Webb, our sound engineer back in London, Steph Chungu. Thank you, Steph. I'm Emma Nelson here in Paris. The Monocle Daily's back at the same time tomorrow for day 5 of French Week. But for now, goodbye. Thanks for listening. Au revoir.